Joining me now is Republican strategist and former aide to George W. Bush, Denise Gitsham. And joining us is Democratic strategist Madeline Summerville. Ladies, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Hello.
Denise, I'm going to jump right in there and start with you. Elon Musk brought some negative attention to the Republican Party. Is it a good thing he's moving out, or was he a necessary fly in the government ointment?
Well, Elon served a couple of different roles that I think most people who aren't Washington insiders like me, who've been in politics for 25 years, do not understand, which is that he served as a lightning rod. He was the person who said, look over here at all these outrageous, fantastical things that I'm doing, all the showcasing, which allowed President Trump to really keep his hands clean of a lot of the things that he had, given over to Elon to handle. Every president needs a lightning rod, and Elon was happy to play that role. And say what you will about Elon personally, whatever you think about him, he started a revolution by starting a long overdue revolution that nobody in Washington had the guts to take on. And rooting out government waste and fraud has become one of the most unifying issues in American public opinion, with 98% of Americans saying that this is something that now must be done.
Madeline, wasn't waste and fraud? His tenure was marred by anti-Tesla protests and more than 260,000 federal workers either getting fired or taking buyouts. Is Musk leaving a sigh of relief for Democrats, or is there nervousness that his replacement will be even worse?
Well, I'm nervous that his replacement will continue making the kind of streamlining of our private data available for the government. I think my colleague was spot on when she said that this was a unifying issue with waste, fraud, and abuse. The problem is that it's going to be 2% or less, right? And the amount that they've cut through DOGE in the budget was something like 0.237% of the overall budget. They've way overinflated the amount of claims. And I think it's because there wasn't enough to cut, right? We can all get behind the issue, but that doesn't mean that the issue exists. The next lady who's supposed to take this position, who's the sort of acting director now, Amy Gleason, she is supposed to work specifically with electronic medical records. She's supposed to be really good at that. And I know that we've had a lot of breaches of privacy in the past. So I'm a bit concerned about her position moving up there.
Congress returning to D.C. after the holiday weekend. Republican senators are set to begin investigating former President Biden's mental decline, as we just heard Libby Dean talk about. Denise, I want to ask you this. Is this something Republicans should prioritize?
This is a politically brilliant move by Republicans to discredit everyone associated with Biden and everybody who defended him, which includes most of the Democrats that are currently in leadership. Look, they gaslit Americans for the entirety of President Biden's stay in the White House, right? Like, Americans saw what was happening, including my friends who had served with him under Obama. They were like, this guy's barely able to stand up and put together a sentence, much less lead our country and be the leader of the free world. And this comes at a perfect time for Republicans to strike, because Democrats are at a record low approval rating. Gallup just saw in April that confidence in Democratic congressional leadership has fallen to 25%, which is the lowest level since Gallup started tracking this in 2001. And only 1/3 of Democrats are optimistic about their party's future, down from 60% a year ago.
Madeline, the party does need an overhaul. If it's true that cabinet members, Democratic Party members, helped cover up President Biden's decline, how will this impact the party's attempt to win back the trust of the American people?
I completely agree that it does need an overhaul. And I think that when it comes to the messaging from the Democrats, we just need to tell the truth. People need to speak from their heart. I saw Governor Wes Moore give a speech yesterday, and I made a little TikTok video on it and posted it and said, look, the reason why we're not connecting is because it sounds like you just did an opinion poll about what issues were bothering people and then told us what we wanted to hear. Speak from your heart. Tell us how you really feel. And if that's how you really feel, say it with authenticity. When it comes to President Biden. So there's actually a really easy explanation for this. There is a test that you give to screen for prostate cancer. You don't administer that test to somebody who's over the age of 70, because administering the test has a lot of risks that outweigh the benefits for it. His last test was in 2014. So I really do think that there's no cover up here when it comes to the Cancer Association. Now, I can't say the same for a cognitive decline. I stood behind the party's decision to support somebody else myself. But I think overall, the messaging really needs to change.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah, it does. I thought you were going to add more to that there, Madeline. Listen, ladies, news of President Trump's pledge to raise tariffs on steel and aluminum from 25 to 50%, causing new concerns for manufacturers and consumers. Denise, let me ask you this. Tariffs remain unpopular, according to recent polls. Will this help or hurt the Republican Party?
It remains to be seen, because what we've seen thus far is that Trump uses tariffs as negotiations for leverage, right? Leverage for negotiations, not specifically focused on the impact it has on the economy, but rather what he could do geopolitically to get what he wants from the countries he's negotiating with. What we have seen is that inflation actually fell, contrary to what everyone was saying, all the chicken littling about what the impact would be on the economy in its first full month of tariffs. And also consumer confidence has continued to rise because people are still spending. So as long as consumer activities and consumer behavior isn't changing, a lot of what we're hearing is anticipation, but we haven't seen the full impacts yet. I think that the jury is still out on how this will impact us in the midterms, but I can guarantee you nobody cares more about Republicans staying in charge in Congress in the midterms than President Trump, and he'll do whatever it takes to ensure that people feel good about the economy next November.
Going to give you the last word there with that, Madeline.
Sure. So when it comes to the steel tariffs, specifically with the steel tariffs that were from 2017. So we've done this before, right? President Trump taxed China in 2017 with steel, and every job that we gained, we lost in the overall, in the summation at the end, right? There was something like 150,000 jobs that were regained, and it was supposed to build up American steel. It didn't, and the amount of job losses actually doubled on the flip side. And when it comes to the offshore or friendshoring, they're calling it, bringing Japanese steel sharing back with us. I'm nervous because the union bosses that were supposed to be supporting steelworkers don't want this. They've said that they don't want this. And so who is it that he's doing this deal for if the union bosses don't want it?
And we definitely will be following it. Denise Gitsham, Madeline Summerville. Ladies, thank you so much for spending your Sunday with us.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.